Welcome to AI for Impact, where we explore how AI and AI agents are positioned to change the world for the better. I'm Kerry Chow, and today we'll hear from RARE, a conservation nonprofit on a mission to scale climate resilience. And we're going to learn how Agentforce is helping power their impact with some incredible results already. Joining me now is Brandon Schauer, Senior Vice President at RARE. Brandon, thank you, first of all, for joining us today.
It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me, Kerry.
Absolutely. Let's dive right in. Briefly tell us, what is RARE's mission, but also what were some of the biggest operational challenges that you are facing that led you to Salesforce?
Oh, absolutely. So RARE's mission is to inspire change so that people and nature thrive. And that's increasingly hard in a world threatened by climate change. So let's localize that to the world of agriculture. The food we eat, well, a third of it comes from what's called smallholder farmers. There's about 600 million of them, and they're growing not these big agribusiness kind of scales of farms, but really small plots, largely through the global south. And for them, there's a real risk of climate change because they can't depend on what happened last year or the year before being the same cycle of weather this time around. They face things like drought, like floods, like pests, like disease in the plants. And so this puts them a lot at risk. What we see as a huge opportunity, though, is the world of regenerative agriculture. It's a whole method of things like restoring the soil that really helps make the farm resilient for smallholder farmers, and so that they can weather these different changes in the environment. And plus, it actually sequesters carbon into the soil, so it keeps that out of the atmosphere and reduces some of the greater harms of climate change.
It's an incredible mission, and it's an incredible goal of what y'all are doing, but how is Agentforce addressing some of those challenges that you just mentioned? Because the climate is changing quite differently on a weekly, daily basis, it feels like.
Yeah, it's true. And so what I first probably need to give you some background on is there's a thing called an extension agent who helps smallholder farmers think about, okay, well, how do I move from the practices I have today to these more regenerative approaches? But say they're funded by, the extension agent is funded by a government, they might only have maybe one extension agent for every 100, 200, even 1,000 farms in certain countries. And so imagine it from a servicing perspective, that's a real long line at the service window. And so a service agent can't really get around to see you every week, every day. You might see them every month. And so how do we help people get the insights they need? How do we help farmers get the education and shift to this better form that's better for their farm, better for the outcomes, better for their personal finances? And so we've built what we call Agent Tierra. So our Tierra, can you roll your R's?
Yeah.
Exactly. So Agent Tierra is built on top of Agentforce to really deliver that virtual extension agent experience to the farmer real time whenever they need it, and this is really critical and important through WhatsApp.
Yeah. Let's deep dive on that. Why is WhatsApp so important here?
Okay, so before we even started with the technology, being a good human-centered design organization, we went and spent time with farmers and really understood their context that we wanted to put this technology into. And we found some interesting things as we started to talk is there's a societal shift on these farms where a lot of people are moving towards the urban areas and away from the farms. And so there's a little bit less community than there once was. They're trying to face also these hard questions of, as the weather and climate's changing, what do they need to do? And so they feel isolated, they feel alone. And what we discovered is, but they're using WhatsApp today to communicate with friends, to communicate with family. And so it's just that natural touch point that if you want to show up as a warm, supportive advisor in terms of what to do, it's the right place to deliver. And what's great is Agentforce can just smoothly deliver through WhatsApp and provide the information and support we want.
It's so important to reach customers, or in this case, farmers, where they're at, right? Like, and to your point, if they're already using WhatsApp, and now we just saw a video of farmers using Agent Tierra, or Tierra, and it's incredible to see because otherwise they would be waiting, as you mentioned, on phones for how long? That's so much valuable time that they would lose. And speaking of time of loss, like what kind of ROI or metrics anecdotes even can you share about this Salesforce impact, this agent impact?
Absolutely. So we originally rolled out with a pilot to dozens of farmers, and what we found is 95% of them said, hey, Agent Tiara, it's really easy to use. So great, that automatically drives adoption. The other thing we found, every single one of them said, and I plan to keep on using it. So we've been able to think about, hey, how do we scale this up? Because we obviously found the sweet spot of what fits. In addition, we are anticipating a 40% drop in the amount of work that our field teams need to spend delivering this. And so that just opens the idea of, hey, we can scale more. We can deliver to more farms with the same headcount of staff.
That's incredible impact. And it doesn't get better than 100% of your farmers say they want to keep using that agent. Like that's an incredible. How do you envision AI and agents further helping scale Rare's mission?
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity because when we think about shifting these smallholder farmers to regenerative agriculture, we really think about this is a last mile problem, right? You know what the solution is, but you have to deliver it to lots of different farmers, lots of different crops, lots of different farm profiles, in a lot of different regions where they may speak a lot of different languages. And so what Agentforce does for us, and AI in general, is the ability to really solve for that complexity and deliver that way. So we've already moved from dozens to hundreds of farmers, and we have plans to go over the next 2 years to 100,000 farmers. That's 300,000 hectares of shifting the behavior, shifting the mentality towards this regenerative farming practice.
What's interesting to me with the Agent Tiara is so many things, but one, what jumps out to my mind is like that time zones and languages are no longer a barrier to any of this, right? You are impacting everyone at the same time, whenever they need it, where they need it in WhatsApp. How do you measure, and you have kind of already touched on this, but how do you measure the success of AI and of Agent Tiara?
Yeah, I think of it going from like really small to really large. So at the small scale, it's the individual answers. Are they not just providing information, but is it actionable? Can people make good decisions and start moving towards these new farm practices? Second is the community. Do we at the community scale see farmers helping other farmers shift, peer-to-peer conversations, helping other farmers adopt Agent Tiara as well? Is the community more resilient? And then at the big scale, really, are we seeing more regenerative farming happening? Because that's a great solution for the farmers. It helps with their livelihood and builds resilience for the food chain, and creates the kind of climate outcomes we're seeking as well.
There's real quickly here, Brandon. There's a lot of competition out there. Why was Agentforce the right platform for Rare?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's where our farmer data is in Salesforce, right? And so it made an easy connection. But also, we got data infrastructure, we got security, we got deployment for free, right? Coming out of the door. And so we could really focus on what we considered our specialty and what were the other problems of complexity of, well, how do you actually engage the farmers? How do you build trust? How do they build trust with this agent? How do you further adoption? And so it allowed us to focus on the problems we really felt it was in our wheelhouse to solve.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights about how Rare is using Agentforce and Salesforce to truly drive impact. It's an incredible mission that y'all are doing at Rare, so thank you for joining us here, Brandon. To learn more about Agentforce Nonprofit, check out salesforce.com/nonprofit or scan the QR code on your screen.